Life is unpredictable, and the people around us often act in ways that are hard to anticipate. Allies can shift, loyalties can falter, and even the most competent among us may face challenges from unexpected directions. Success is not guaranteed by skill alone, and fairness is rarely the rule. It is often the exception. In this video, we're going to explore the key traits that make someone untouchable, the habits, behaviors, and ways of thinking that allow a person to move through life with influence, respect, and security. By understanding and applying these traits, you can protect your position, influence outcomes, and thrive even in challenging social environments. Being untouchable isn't about luck, brute force, or intimidation. It's about strategy, awareness, and timing. It's about mastering the unspoken rules of human behavior and positioning yourself so that threats dissolve before they even appear. Some of these rules are obvious: envy, fear, ambition, desire, insecurity. Others are subtle: timing, perception, influence, and the ability to act unseen until the moment is right. Those who grasp these rules don't just survive, they thrive. They move through social systems, workplaces, friend groups, and families as if shielded from harm, untouched by envy, betrayal, or misfortune. Untouchability is a state of influence, perception, and timing. It means being strategically present so others cannot challenge you without exposing themselves. It's moving through a group without getting drawn into petty conflicts, gossip, or resentment. This invisible armor is forged not through weapons or intimidation, but through understanding, foresight, and careful calculation. It's a kind of intelligence that quietly shifts the balance of power in your favor, often without anyone noticing. Where most people fail is in acting too soon, speaking too much, or letting emotions dictate their choices. The untouchable person does none of these things. They observe, measure, plan, and act only when the outcome fully favors them. Then they vanish, leaving only the impression of inevitability. To survive and thrive without being sabotaged, overlooked, or undermined, you must first understand this reality. Only then can you position yourself to become untouchable. And before we dive into the first trait, one thing is clear. Becoming untouchable isn't about cruelty or manipulation for its own sake. It's about awareness, self-protection, and mastering the subtle rules of human interaction. Those who internalize these rules move through life with calm confidence, quiet authority, and a presence that commands respect simply because it cannot be challenged without consequence. The first trait that separates the untouchable from the ordinary is what I call strategic invisibility. This is not about disappearing entirely or avoiding responsibility, and it is certainly not about being weak or passive. Strategic invisibility is about deliberately controlling the way you are perceived, minimizing exposure, and avoiding unnecessary attention while still remaining fully present and influential. It is the art of moving through a group without becoming a target, without inviting envy, and without allowing others to fully define or predict your actions. Most people make the mistake of trying to stand out too early, too openly, or too obviously. They believe visibility is power, but visibility without strategy is vulnerability. When you draw attention prematurely, you expose your strengths, your intentions, and even your weaknesses. Envy forms quickly in the human heart, and once it is directed at you, it is difficult to deflect. Strategic invisibility is the opposite of that exposure. You blend in, you observe, you position yourself without creating enemies. You gather information quietly, listening to what people say, how they say it, and even what they fail to say. In this state, you are present, but not threatened, powerful, but not obvious. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than to be envied." And yet the first step to any enduring influence is to avoid envy entirely. You want people to respect you, to rely on you, and to notice your abilities. but you do not want them to fixate on your accomplishments in ways that provoke resentment. The untouchable person understands that being visible too soon invites unnecessary challenges, but being invisible strategically allows you to act at the right moment with full effect. Strategic invisibility also requires patience and restraint. Imagine a room full of people all vying for attention. Most will try to assert themselves immediately, dominating conversations, showcasing their skills, or flaunting achievements. The strategically invisible person does the opposite. They remain unassuming, contributing only what is necessary, and letting others reveal their intentions and weaknesses first. By doing so, they learn more about the social landscape, identify threats, and uncover opportunities without ever being noticed. Consider a practical example. In a work environment, someone might push to lead a project, make bold claims, or attempt to impress everyone with visible achievements. Strategic invisibility is sitting slightly to the side, observing how the team functions, noting each person's motivations and blind spots, and quietly positioning yourself to become indispensable when the critical moment arrives. When others bicker, you are calm. When mistakes are made, you are prepared. When the moment for recognition or decisive action comes, you are ready to step in with authority. By this point, because you have stayed under the radar, your impact appears effortless, almost inevitable, and envy or opposition is minimized. This invisibility is not about being weak or passive. It is a deliberate, calculated presence. It allows you to gather intelligence, preserve your energy, and act decisively when the stakes are highest. It is about being underestimated while being fully aware, being overlooked while remaining in control. People rarely target what they cannot define, cannot predict, and cannot fully understand. Strategic invisibility ensures that you are all of these things. Moreover, strategic invisibility teaches restraint in communication. You do not volunteer information unnecessarily. You answer questions with precision, avoiding over-explaining or revealing more than needed. Mystery in your behavior and communication is a tool of influence. When people do not know everything about you, they fill in the gaps with assumptions that often work in your favor. You become memorable not because you are flashy, but because you are deliberate, composed, and quietly effective. In essence, strategic invisibility is the first armor of the untouchable. It protects you from envy. It prevents premature targeting, and it allows you to act when others are consumed with self-promotion, emotional reactions, or petty competition. Mastering this trait creates the foundation upon which every other aspect of untouchability is built, giving you the freedom to observe, plan, and act without unnecessary interference. The second trait that defines someone untouchable in any group is controlled influence. Unlike brute force or overt persuasion, controlled influence is subtle, indirect, and remarkably effective. It is the ability to guide people's thoughts, decisions, and actions without them ever realizing they are being influenced. Most people try to lead through commands, charisma, or visible authority, but those methods are noisy. They provoke resistance, envy, or rebellion. Controlled influence, in contrast, operates beneath the surface, shaping perception and outcomes quietly, deliberately, and almost invisibly. The essence of controlled influence is planting ideas rather than issuing directives. You do not tell people what to think. You offer observations, ask carefully framed questions, or present options in a way that leads them to the conclusion you want. The genius of this method is that the group believes the idea came from them, that they arrived at the solution on their own. This makes them far more committed to it, far less likely to resist it, and far more likely to see you as an ally rather than a manipulator. Influence is strongest when invisible. People who realize they are being guided often react defensively, but when they believe they are acting independently, their compliance feels natural. Timing is crucial. A suggestion made too early may be ignored or dismissed. One made too late may no longer have the intended effect. The untouchable person studies the rhythm of the group, understanding when attention is focused, when egos are fragile, and when opportunities for guidance are at their peak. A single well-timed word, a carefully positioned observation, or a seemingly casual comment can shift the dynamics of the group in your favor without anyone noticing that you had any hand in it. Controlled influence also requires deep awareness of individual personalities. Each person in a group reacts differently to persuasion. Some are guided by logic, others by emotion, others by pride or fear. The untouchable recognizes these differences and tailors interactions accordingly. To one, you might ask a thought-provoking question. To another, you might make a quiet observation that triggers curiosity. To a third, you might share a story that subtly nudges behavior. Influence is never one size fits all. It is strategic, flexible, and precise. Another aspect of controlled influence is the ability to make people feel understood while remaining in control of your own narrative. When someone believes you understand them, their defenses lower, their attention sharpens, and their trust grows. You can guide outcomes by listening more than speaking, by validating emotions without yielding your position, and by asking questions that reveal intentions and vulnerabilities. This is influence that flows naturally because it feels consensual, collaborative, and logical, even when it serves your strategic goals. A practical example: in a work or social setting, you might subtly guide decisions by framing alternatives in a way that appears neutral but favors the outcome you want. Instead of saying, "We should do this because it benefits me," you present the situation neutrally. We have two options. One maximizes efficiency, the other maximizes visibility. Which do you think aligns best with our goals? People often choose the option that aligns with your desired outcome because you have made it appear theirs to choose. Controlled influence is also a shield. By shaping perception subtly, you reduce the likelihood of direct conflict, envy, or opposition. People feel they have agency, they feel respected, and yet their actions align with your strategy. You appear cooperative, unthreatening, and supportive. But the reality is that your hand has guided the flow of decisions, opinions, and even alliances. In short, controlled influence is the art of moving others without appearing to move them. It is quiet, deliberate, and profoundly effective. When mastered, it allows you to shape outcomes, protect yourself, and strengthen your position while remaining largely invisible. Influence is not about loud authority. It is about the quiet force that makes people act in ways that align with your strategic goals without ever realizing it. This is the second layer of untouchability, the power to shape the environment itself without stepping into the spotlight or exposing your own intentions. The third trait that separates the untouchable from the ordinary is emotional immunity. This is not the absence of emotion. It is not coldness, detachment, or indifference to the world. Emotional immunity is the ability to feel without being controlled, to observe without reacting impulsively, and to respond with precision rather than passion. Most people operate on instinct, reacting instantly to provocation, criticism, or praise. They are slaves to their feelings, and their reactions reveal more than they intend. The untouchable, in contrast, turns emotion into a tool rather than a weapon. They are aware of how emotions drive behavior in themselves and others, and they use that awareness strategically. Consider anger, envy, or frustration, the emotions that destroy most people's position in any group. When someone insults or challenges you, the instinctive response is to defend, to argue, to justify, to attack in return. This is predictable. This is what most people do, and it is precisely what makes them vulnerable. Emotional immunity is the ability to pause, to step back mentally, and to observe both the trigger and the person who delivered it. By doing this, you strip the interaction of its power over you. You no longer react in a way that confirms their expectations, and you gain the ability to act on your own timeline rather than theirs, Emotions are currency. Most people spend theirs recklessly, trading reactions for fleeting satisfaction, short-term wins, or perceived justice. The untouchable invests emotional energy strategically. They deploy it only when it serves a purpose, and they conserve it at all other times. This creates a sense of calm authority around them. People notice that they remain unshaken under pressure, that they do not take offense easily, and that they do not escalate conflicts unnecessarily. This calm becomes a silent force, shaping how others interact with them and reinforcing their untouchable status. Emotional immunity also involves reading the emotions of others. The untouchable person recognizes when someone is reacting out of insecurity, fear, or pride. They know that an outburst or criticism is often less about you and more about the other person's state of mind. By interpreting emotions accurately, you gain foresight. You can predict reactions, anticipate moves, and decide whether a response is necessary, or if doing nothing is the smarter choice. Silence can be far more powerful than words, especially when others are consumed by their feelings. Another aspect of emotional immunity is self-regulation. You must be able to experience emotions fully without allowing them to dictate your actions. Joy, pride, frustration, or disappointment can all cloud judgment if handled carelessly. The untouchable person feels deeply but acts deliberately. They do not allow ego or desire for validation to interfere with strategy. They remain centered, objective, and unshakable, even when chaos swirls around them. This does not make them unemotional. It makes them unassailable. In practical terms, emotional immunity protects your reputation and your influence. When others are caught in the heat of argument, stress, or drama, you remain composed. When people attempt to provoke you, you refuse to take the bait. When the group is distracted by emotion, you act decisively. This trait allows you to control not only your behavior, but also the perception of your authority. Calm, measured, and intentional action becomes a form of silent dominance, and it strengthens your untouchable position more than any direct confrontation could. In short, emotional immunity is the armor that protects you from the chaos of human behavior. It allows you to see clearly, act decisively, and maintain control over your presence and influence. Without it, all the observation, strategy, and subtle influence in the world can be undone by a single reactive outburst, a poorly timed argument, or an emotional decision. With it, you remain unshaken, respected, and untouchable. The fourth trait that distinguishes the untouchable is reputation as armor. Your reputation is more than a reflection of your past actions. It is a tool, a shield, and a form of influence all at once. Most people underestimate how much their perceived character shapes the way others interact with them. They believe that talent, intelligence, or hard work alone will protect them. But in truth, perception often outweighs reality. Your reputation is the lens through which the world interprets every move you make. When carefully cultivated, it becomes armor, preventing attacks from sticking, discouraging envy, and commanding respect without a single word. Reputation as armor begins with reliability and competence. People must know that you are capable, that you deliver on promises, and that you handle responsibilities without fail. This creates a baseline of trust that others will hesitate to undermine, simply because they recognize that doing so would be foolish. But reliability alone is not enough. It must be paired with mystery and selective sharing. You reveal enough to demonstrate your skills and your integrity, but not so much that others can predict, manipulate, or envy you. The untouchable person understands that transparency without strategy is vulnerability. You want people to respect and admire you, but you do not want to expose yourself to unnecessary risk. Machiavelli warned that a lost reputation is nearly impossible to recover, and he was right. Once others perceive weakness, indecisiveness, or inconsistency, Every action you take will be filtered through that lens. Therefore, the untouchable protects their image relentlessly. They understand that reputation is both defensive and offensive. It shields them from attacks while simultaneously shaping the opportunities and alliances available to them. A carefully managed reputation signals authority, competence, and inevitability without requiring overt displays of power. Strategically, reputation as armor works because people judge based on impressions and patterns more than on facts. Once a reputation is established, every subsequent action is interpreted in its context. If you are known as unflappable and decisive, your calm in crisis is perceived as mastery rather than luck. If you are known as discreet and trustworthy, sharing sensitive information or building alliances with you feels safe to others. Reputation compounds over time. Every interaction, every choice, every word carefully measured reinforces your untouchable status. Another aspect of reputation as armor is perception management. This is not about creating a false persona or being deceitful. It is about deliberately shaping how others experience your actions. When you appear calm under pressure, competent in complex situations, and consistent in your principles, you create a narrative of reliability and strength. People begin to internalize this narrative, and it guides their expectations and interactions with you. They hesitate to challenge you, they think twice before undermining you, and they unconsciously defer to your influence. Reputation also functions as a preventative measure. When others perceive you as strong, competent, and untouchable, they are less likely to test you. Your image becomes a deterrent to envy, sabotage, and conflict. At the same time, a carefully maintained reputation attracts alliances and opportunities. People are drawn to those whose presence signals stability, foresight, and authority. Being untouchable is not about domination. It is about being someone whose name, actions, and image carry weight long before you even speak. In practical terms, reputation as armor requires vigilance and consistency. You must monitor how your actions are perceived, ensure that your words and deeds align with your desired image, and correct misperceptions before they metastasize. You cannot afford carelessness in interactions, public behavior, or even casual remarks. Every choice becomes a reinforcement of the armor that protects you, and every lapse risks creating vulnerabilities that others may exploit. In short, reputation as armor transforms perception into protection. It turns competence into influence, consistency into deterrence, and presence into inevitability. With this armor, you can move through any group with confidence, your position secure because the world has already agreed, in perception if not in fact, that you are not to be challenged. It is the silent strength that makes you untouchable before you even act, and the foundation upon which the rest of your strategic traits will build. The fifth trait that makes someone untouchable is the ability to cultivate alliances without dependency. Most people misunderstand relationships in groups. They confuse closeness with control, loyalty with leverage, and friendship with invincibility. Alliances are essential. No one operates in complete isolation, but relying too heavily on any single person, faction, or source of influence is a trap. The untouchable understands that the strength of a group position comes not from dependence, but from strategic connection. They build relationships widely and wisely, ensuring that they are respected and valued across multiple spheres, yet remain free of obligations that could compromise their autonomy. Alliances without dependency begin with understanding the motivations of others. Every person has desires, fears, and ambitions, and the untouchable observes these carefully. They learn who seeks validation, who seeks influence, and who seeks security. And they structure interactions to align mutual interests without creating vulnerability. You do not commit yourself blindly, nor do you expect unwavering loyalty. Instead, you position yourself as indispensable, trusted, and respected. while maintaining the ability to disengage or shift alliances if circumstances change. The key principle here is balance. You must be connected to enough people that you are protected, informed, and influential, but never tied so tightly that anyone can use your loyalty, access, or trust against you. Most people overextend, creating obligations that later become chains. They commit to others at the cost of their own freedom. The untouchable avoids this trap by keeping relationships mutually beneficial and carefully monitored. They are generous with assistance, attentive in conversation, and supportive when necessary, but always maintain clarity about boundaries and self-interest. Another crucial element is versatility. The untouchable's alliances span multiple factions, roles, or networks within a group. They are respected by different sides because they offer value without threatening anyone's position. They do not provoke jealousy by favoring one faction over another, nor do they allow themselves to be drawn into factional conflicts unnecessarily. Instead, they remain strategically neutral in appearance while subtly strengthening connections, gathering information, and increasing influence. This networked presence makes them untouchable because attacking them risks alienating multiple allies and exposing opposition's own vulnerabilities. Equally important is timing and reciprocity. Alliances are not static. They are living structures that require careful maintenance. The untouchable knows when to support, when to step back, and when to offer assistance that solidifies respect without creating indebtedness. They understand that appearing cooperative, helpful, and engaged does not require total submission or compromise of strategy. By calibrating interactions carefully, they can deepen trust, reinforce reputation, and create a sense of indispensability without losing autonomy. Consider a practical example. In a workplace, the untouchable nurtures relationships with peers, mentors, and subordinates, offering guidance, sharing insights, and supporting initiatives. Yet, they never overcommit to a single group or person. They remain aware of shifting dynamics, monitor alliances for potential threats or opportunities, and intervene selectively to strengthen their position. When conflicts arise, they have multiple points of influence and multiple avenues for negotiation, ensuring that no single relationship can control or undermine them. Ultimately, alliances without dependency create freedom within interdependence. You are never isolated, but you are never constrained. You are valued, respected, and strategically positioned across multiple spheres of influence, and this makes it extraordinarily difficult for others to threaten or displace you. By maintaining this balance, you transform relationships from potential weaknesses into tools of protection and leverage, reinforcing the untouchable position you are building. The sixth trait that separates the untouchable from the ordinary is predictive observation. While most people react to events as they occur, the untouchable sees them coming before they happen. They observe not only actions, but patterns, motivations, and subtle indicators that others dismiss as irrelevant. This ability to anticipate human behavior transforms uncertainty into control, giving you the rare advantage of acting before others realize a move is necessary. Predictive observation is not guesswork. It is a disciplined practice of attention, analysis, and foresight, combined with a deep understanding of human psychology. The foundation of predictive observation is listening, but not passive listening, the kind where you hear words but miss meaning. This is active, analytical listening. You notice inconsistencies between what people say and what they do. You watch for patterns of behavior that repeat across contexts. You pay attention to tone, body language, timing, and micro-reactions that signal intentions, desires, or hidden resentment. Every small detail, every gesture, and every nuance is a clue. Most people ignore these subtleties because they are caught in their own emotions, ambitions, or distractions. The untouchable, in contrast, records and processes these signals continuously, creating a mental map of behavior and influence that others cannot see. Beyond observing, Predictive observation requires pattern recognition. People are creatures of habit. Even the most careful or clever individuals reveal tendencies over time. By tracking these tendencies, the untouchable can anticipate moves, foresee conflicts, and identify opportunities before they are obvious. They can predict which alliances will form, which rivalries will ignite, and which situations will benefit their position. This foresight allows them to act preemptively, adjust strategy, or intervene subtly, turning potential threats into advantages or neutralizing risks before they arise. Another crucial element is timing. Knowing what might happen is only valuable if you pair it with precise action. The untouchable does not act impulsively. They wait for the perfect moment when intervention will produce maximum effect with minimal risk. This combination of insight and timing creates an almost inevitable influence. Others are surprised, not because they were careless, but because the untouchable's strategy was invisible, deliberate, and perfectly executed. They see the consequences, but rarely the cause. Predictive observation also includes understanding emotional cycles within groups. Humans often act predictably under stress, excitement, or envy. The untouchable identifies these cycles and uses them to anticipate reactions. They understand that an argument, a crisis, or a heated discussion is not random. It is part of a rhythm of behavior that can be mapped and leveraged. By aligning their actions with these rhythms, the untouchable maximizes impact while minimizing exposure to retaliation or conflict. A practical example. Imagine a team where two individuals frequently clash over resources or recognition. While others react to the argument after it erupts, the untouchable has already noticed the tension building through subtle indicators. A shift in tone, avoidance of eye contact, or changes in behavior. Before the conflict becomes overt, they position themselves in a way that diffuses tension, offers solutions, or subtly redirects focus. To the group, it appears as though the untouchable acted wisely and decisively in the moment. But in reality, the outcome was anticipated and prepared for long before the situation escalated. Predictive observation is what allows the untouchable to remain untouchable. By seeing moves before they occur, understanding the forces driving behavior, and acting with precision, they maintain control over their environment. It is the difference between reacting to life and shaping it. While others are caught off guard, scrambling to respond, the untouchable is already several steps ahead, moving with a calm certainty that makes interference difficult, if not impossible. Ultimately, predictive observation transforms awareness into power. It allows you to act in ways that appear effortless and inevitable, guiding outcomes, mitigating threats, and reinforcing your untouchable position without creating conflict or drawing unnecessary attention. This trait, more than any single skill, turns perception into reality, allowing you to influence events before anyone else even realizes they are happening. The seventh trait that separates the untouchable from everyone else is calculated vulnerability. This may seem counterintuitive. How can revealing weakness possibly make you untouchable? The key lies in control. Calculated vulnerability is the deliberate strategic disclosure of certain weaknesses or limitations in order to disarm suspicion, build trust, and manipulate perception, all while concealing the strengths that truly define your influence. Most people think vulnerability is dangerous because it exposes them to attack. But when wielded deliberately, it becomes a tool that enhances power rather than diminishes it. The untouchable understands that people are drawn to honesty, relatability, and apparent openness. When you share just enough of your struggles, doubts, or limitations, you lower defenses, invite cooperation, and cultivate goodwill. Others feel seen, understood, and even protective of you, and this shifts their perception in ways that often work in your favor. You are no longer viewed as distant, untouchable, or intimidating. You are human, approachable, and trustworthy, but only on your terms. The moment vulnerability becomes uncontrolled, indiscriminate, or excessive, it ceases to serve strategy. The untouchable never crosses that line. Calculated vulnerability also allows you to steer attention away from your true strengths. By highlighting minor weaknesses, you create a perception that conceals the qualities, skills, or knowledge that you want to protect. People underestimate you, and this underestimation is a powerful advantage. When the time comes to act decisively, your opponents or peers are unprepared, having assumed you are less capable than you actually are. Your apparent vulnerability becomes a mask for hidden authority and influence, making your moves seem effortless and unexpected. Another aspect of this trait is trust building. People naturally respond positively to those who admit limitations, mistakes, or uncertainty in a controlled way. They see you as self-aware, grounded, and genuine. But this trust is a currency, not a gift. The untouchable carefully calibrates when, where, and to whom to reveal vulnerability, ensuring that it reinforces relationships without creating liability. This selective sharing strengthens alliances, reduces conflict, and allows you to influence others without appearing manipulative. A practical example: in a workplace, instead of boasting about every achievement or skill, the untouchable might admit to a minor oversight or acknowledge that a particular task is challenging. This admission makes them appear relatable, human, and honest, while simultaneously masking the deeper skills, strategic insights, or capabilities that give them true power. Colleagues feel comfortable, even protective, and their focus shifts away from challenging the untouchable's authority or competence. When the untouchable decides to act, they do so from a position of underestimated strength, and the outcome appears almost inevitable. Calculated vulnerability also protects against resentment and envy. When people perceive you as flawless, competent, or superior in every way, it triggers jealousy, insecurity, and covert opposition. By revealing select weaknesses, you humanize yourself, deflect hostility, and create psychological space for others to align with you rather than compete against you. In this way, vulnerability becomes a shield as well as a tool of influence, reducing the intensity of potential threats while reinforcing your strategic position. In essence, calculated vulnerability is about control, the control to reveal without exposing, to share without weakening, and to influence without dominating. It is a sophisticated balance between transparency and discretion, a dance that few understand and even fewer master. When wielded correctly, it makes you approachable yet untouchable, relatable yet strategically formidable. People trust you, underestimate you, and respect you all at once. And that combination is the hallmark of untouchable status. The eighth and final trait that defines someone untouchable is outcome-focused action. Most people confuse activity with progress. They measure themselves by how busy they are, how many arguments they win, or how loudly they assert themselves. But this is a trap. Being untouchable is not about proving a point, asserting dominance, or seeking recognition. It is about achieving tangible results that strengthen your position, protect your influence, and reinforce the perception of inevitability. Outcome-focused action is the discipline of aligning every choice, every move, and every interaction with the result you truly want to achieve, rather than getting lost in the noise of ego, emotion, or superficial victories. This trait requires ruthless clarity. You must constantly ask yourself, what is the objective? What is the outcome I am trying to achieve in this conversation, this negotiation, or this situation? Most people never pause to answer this question. They argue to be right, compete to be noticed, and react to perceived slights. Their actions are scattered, reactive, and ultimately self-defeating. The untouchable, however, approaches every situation with the end in mind, prioritizing results over appearances, effectiveness over effort, and long-term advantage over immediate gratification. Outcome-focused action is also about choosing battles wisely. Not every argument, slight, or conflict deserves attention. The Untouchable distinguishes between what truly affects influence and control and what is merely noise. They conserve their energy and focus on actions that produce meaningful results, whether that means shifting alliances, securing opportunities, or positioning themselves in ways that reinforce untouchability. Petty squabbles, ego battles, and unnecessary confrontations are distractions, and they are avoided with precision. This selective engagement magnifies both efficiency and impact. Another essential aspect is adaptability. Being outcome-focused does not mean stubbornly sticking to a plan when it no longer works. It means being fiercely committed to the objective while remaining flexible in strategy. If one approach fails, the Untouchable pivots, seeking a new path that leads to the desired outcome. Methods are fluid, goals are fixed. This adaptability ensures that no obstacle, whether an unexpected conflict, a sudden shift in alliances, or the unpredictability of human behavior, can derail the Untouchable's trajectory. A practical example: imagine a negotiation within a group where stakes are high and opinions clash. Most people enter these situations thinking they need to win verbally, to assert superiority, or to dominate discussions. The Untouchable enters with the outcome in mind. What do I want to accomplish? How can I guide this interaction so that the result aligns with my position and protects my influence? They listen, they observe, and they act with precision. At times, this might mean conceding a minor point to secure a larger advantage. At other times, it means subtle manipulation to align the group's decisions with their desired result. Everything is measured against the ultimate objective, and nothing distracts from it. Outcome-focused action also ensures that your influence is perceived as inevitable. People recognize those who consistently achieve results. They respect those who can navigate complexity, deliver solutions, and maintain composure under pressure. Over time, this reputation compounds, reinforcing your untouchable position. Your peers, rivals, and even adversaries learn that you are someone who produces results, someone who cannot easily be derailed, and someone whose presence alters the dynamics of any group. Results, not words or appearances, define authority. In essence, outcome-focused action transforms potential into reality. It is the practical execution of strategy, the discipline of aligning intention with result, and the final layer that completes the Untouchable framework. With it, all the previous traits: strategic invisibility, controlled influence, emotional immunity, reputation as armor, alliances without dependency, predictive observation, and calculated vulnerability, coalesce into a coherent, formidable presence. You are no longer merely reactive or cautious. You are decisive, effective, and untouchable, shaping the world around you with precision, influence, and foresight. Becoming untouchable is not about dominance, aggression, or being the loudest person in the room. It is not about intimidation or brute force. It is about perception, timing, control, and mastery of subtle influence. Each word you speak, every gesture you make, every relationship you cultivate, and even every silence you maintain is a tool in your arsenal. Untouchability is a design, not a gift. It is the deliberate orchestration of presence, behavior, and strategy so that others cannot threaten you, predict you fully, or manipulate you without consequence. When you combine all 8 traits, you create a presence that is simultaneously visible and invisible. Strategic invisibility ensures that you avoid unnecessary attention while remaining influential. Controlled influence allows you to shape outcomes subtly and decisively. Emotional immunity protects you from chaos, provocation, and impulsive decisions. Reputation as armor transforms perception into protection and authority. Alliances without dependency give you networks of influence without binding obligations. Predictive observation allows you to anticipate moves before they happen. Calculated vulnerability disarms suspicion and builds trust while concealing your true strengths. Outcome-focused action ensures that every step you take produces tangible results and reinforces your position. Mastery of these traits turns everyday interactions into exercises in influence, subtle strategy, and long-term positioning. You no longer react to circumstances blindly. You move with purpose, shaping the environment around you. People sense your presence without fully understanding it. They notice your calm, your decisiveness, and your reliability. They see the results you produce without realizing the layers of observation, strategy, and calculation that created them. This combination makes you untouchable, not because others fear confrontation, but because the cost of challenging you, the unpredictability of your influence, and the precision of your timing make interference ineffective or self-defeating. Untouchability is quiet, invisible, and often misunderstood. It does not require overt displays of power or constant assertion of authority. It requires discipline, self-awareness, patience, and practice. Every relationship, every piece of information, every action is carefully considered. You act when it matters, speak when it serves, and remain silent when that is the most powerful choice. This is the essence of strategic mastery, being fully present, fully aware, and fully in control, while others are caught up in reactive chaos. The ultimate goal is not to dominate or to intimidate. It is to cultivate a presence and reputation so secure, a strategy so precise, and a judgment so accurate that you are untouchable in any group, in any setting, and under any pressure. Power is subtle, influence is invisible, and authority is earned through consistency, calculation, and foresight. Those who understand this, who practice it, and who internalize it, move through the world with an unassailable advantage. Now, the challenge for you is application. Knowledge without practice is meaningless. Choose one of the 8 traits that resonates most with you. It could be strategic invisibility, allowing you to blend into your environment while observing carefully. It could be emotional immunity, giving you the calm to navigate chaos without being drawn into conflict. Perhaps it is outcome-focused action, sharpening your ability to achieve results rather than chasing recognition. Whatever it is, commit to practicing it deliberately for the next 7 days. Notice how your interactions shift. Pay attention to how people respond differently to you when you implement one trait consciously. Observe the subtle changes in perception, the quiet influence you wield, and the power you gain simply by acting with purpose and precision. Focus on one trait at a time, rather than trying to master all 8 at once. Mastery is a process, not a single moment of insight. Share in the comments which trait feels most natural to you and which one challenges you the most. Reflect on your progress and the subtle ways your presence and influence are changing. Remember, untouchability is not about aggression, domination, or cruelty. It is about design. It is about creating a presence that is resilient, respected, and unassailable. True mastery lies not in overt displays of strength, but in the quiet, strategic, and deliberate cultivation of influence, perception, and action. By practicing these traits, you do not just protect yourself. You move through groups and relationships with authority, foresight, and control. You influence outcomes before others realize what is happening. You build networks of trust and respect while remaining free of dependency or vulnerability. You become untouchable by design, not by accident. This is the path of strategic mastery. It is subtle, patient, and deliberate. It is the art of shaping reality rather than reacting to it. And once you embrace it, you will find that the untouchable position is not a title or a moment of power. It is a state of being. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are prepared, aware, and in control, no matter what unfolds around you.